Natasha Howard's exit from the Indiana Fever wasn't just a roster shakeup. It was a red flag for how poor team construction can derail even the brightest futures. Her clashing play style and lack of synergy with rising stars like Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston disrupted what could have been a defining season. Fan reactions were blunt. Howard had to go. The message was clear: chemistry matters, and the league's failure to prioritize it reflects a deeper pattern of misaligned strategies and reactive leadership.
If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe.
That breakdown in chemistry mirrors the structural problems dragging the entire WNBA into conflict. Players are demanding smarter contracts and a voice in how teams are built, not just for competitive edge, but for league survival. Without major reforms to how talent is managed and compensated, even the most promising teams will falter. And in a league already on edge with CBA tensions and potential season cancellations, one wrong move could cost them everything. The WNBA is facing a moment of reckoning, and Caitlin Clark's contract has become the flashpoint. What should have been a step forward, a promising rookie entering the league with big expectations, has instead triggered a wave of outrage, accusations of favoritism, and now, allegations of systemic racism. The numbers, the optics, the silence from leadership, it's all adding up to a storm the league is completely unprepared to handle. Let's start with the deal itself. Caitlin Clark is undoubtedly the most hyped rookie in league history. She's coming off a college career that broke records and drew millions of new fans to the sport. She's marketable, she's charismatic, and she's been positioned as the future of the WNBA. That's not up for debate. But the deal surrounding her entry, combined with how other players have been treated, has exposed just how fragile and flawed the league's internal structure really is. While the proposed new maximum salary could hit $1.1 million, the reality is that most players aren't seeing anywhere near that. Base pay remains closer to $800,000 at best, and most of it comes with strings attached: incentives, bonuses, performance clauses. That's assuming you're already a top performer. For most of the league, the number is significantly lower. And yet, while these structural limitations still exist, Clark is signing endorsement deals, securing licensing revenue, and headlining a narrative the league has never built around any of its veteran stars. That's where the problem starts. Clark is benefiting from the new money era of women's sports. But that era didn't just appear out of nowhere. It was built slowly, often invisibly, by the very players now watching her get the biggest slice of a pie they helped bake. And when most of those players are black women who have consistently been the league's MVPs, champions, and cultural pillars, the disparity doesn't just feel unfair. It feels racial. The league has never addressed this directly. It hasn't explained why endorsement infrastructure, licensing deals, and media exposure have ramped up now, but weren't aggressively pushed for players like Aya Wilson, Sylvia Fowles, or Angel McCoughtry. There was no multi-million-dollar PR machine when other stars were carrying teams and leagues on their backs. But now that Clark is here, everything's moving. The optics are hard to defend, because this doesn't look like progress. It looks like selective investment. And it's not just off-court value that's in question, it's how on-court decisions are being shaped. Natasha Howard's exit from the Indiana Fever is a perfect example. Howard, a former All-Star and championship winner, was brought onto a team that's trying to find its identity. But her playstyle clashed with what the team needed. The chemistry was off, and when fans noticed, they were clear: she needed to go. They didn't just say it, they celebrated her departure. Fans wanted her out, and they made it known. Comments rolled in suggesting she'd be better off playing overseas. That kind of reaction doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from a fandom that's been emboldened to prioritize one vision of the team's future. And that vision is now completely centered around Clark. It's not hard to read between the lines. When a black veteran is pushed out publicly to make space for a white rookie's development, the racial dynamics can't be ignored, especially when it's happening in a league that's long struggled with equitable representation. This isn't about whether Clark deserves the spotlight. It's about why the system only turned on the lights when she showed up. The licensing deal with Panini only further inflamed things. On paper, it's a huge win. Finally, players can profit from their likeness, get paid from trading cards and merchandise. But in practice, the commercial value is flowing toward a few headline names. Again, mostly centered around Clark. The distribution of this new revenue stream is opaque, and the players who fought for it don't feel like they're being compensated fairly now that it's actually happening. This all comes at a time when the league can least afford tension. The current collective bargaining agreement is hanging by a thread. The 30-day extension gave the WNBA and the league more time, but not much. And what are they doing with it? Arguing over the same thing players have raised for years: revenue sharing. The players don't just want a bigger check. They want a percentage of the growth they're helping create. They're not asking for favors. They're demanding alignment. The league is growing. Viewership is exploding. But the money still isn't trickling down in a way that reflects that success. That gap is now so wide, it's threatening the 2026 season altogether. If the CBA collapses and a league doesn't make a deal, a lockout is on the table. And if that happens, Caitlin Clark's highly anticipated debut season could get delayed or derailed entirely. So even the league's golden goose isn't safe from its own mismanagement. The irony? All of this momentum, new fans, media coverage, licensing, money, it could all disappear. The very thing the league has been chasing for decades is now within reach. And instead of protecting it, they're fumbling it through greed, short-sightedness, and a refusal to evolve their outdated economic model. It's not just players who are frustrated. Fans are starting to see through the marketing. They're asking why players like Clark are being prioritized while the league still relies on commercial deals that don't benefit everyone equally. They're watching how quickly rosters shift, how player chemistry is dismissed, and how the league bends to media narratives instead of supporting balanced, strategic growth. There's still time to fix this, but not much. The WNBA has to acknowledge that team building isn't just about stats. It's about chemistry, communication, and mutual growth. And that includes respecting veterans who've earned their spot. It has to stop treating revenue as something that trickles down and start treating it like something players generate. Because they do. The entire business model depends on their performance, their presence, their platform. And finally, it has to reckon with the racial undertones that have become impossible to ignore. Players are watching. Fans are talking. The league can't pretend it's just business when the same business model keeps uplifting one demographic while sidelining another. Caitlin Clark's arrival isn't the problem, but the way the league is responding to it, elevating her without addressing the system around her, is pulling the curtain back on everything that hasn't changed. This isn't about jealousy. It's about justice. And two, the players have waited long enough. They've proven their value. They've grown the game when no one else believed in it. And now that the spotlight is here, they deserve more than to be treated like background extras in someone else's story. So what happens next? That's up to the league. But if they don't listen, if they don't respond with action, they're not just risking a bad headline. They're risking the entire future of women's basketball. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Are the players right to demand revenue sharing and call out structural inequality? Or is this just growing pains in a changing league? Like this video if you think the WNBA needs real reform now, and subscribe for more breakdowns as the drama continues to unfold. Because this isn't just a story about basketball anymore. It's a fight over who gets to shape the future. And right now, the clock is running out. The WNBA is running out of time. And worse, it's running out of excuses. Caitlin Clark's entry into the league was supposed to be the start of a new chapter. The numbers were up. The media was locked in. Merch sales were breaking records. The WNBA finally had what it had been chasing for decades: mainstream attention, cultural relevance, and commercial viability. But the way it's being handled is making it harder to celebrate what should have been a league-wide win. Instead of unity, we're watching a divide grow wider by the day. And now, players, fans, and even former supporters are openly asking, who is this league really for? Let's talk about why this is spiraling. 2. When Caitlin Clark signed with the Indiana Fever, the attention was immediate. She's a generational shooter. Her college numbers were staggering, and her fan base followed her straight into the pros. None of that is in dispute, but her salary deal and everything orbiting around it has become a spotlight not just on her, but on the systemic failures of the league itself. The Panini licensing deal, for instance, was positioned as a breakthrough for all players. Finally, the WNBA had secured a commercial agreement that would bring in outside money and pay players for their likeness. But behind the scenes, it became obvious that only a select few were really seeing the benefits. Again, mostly centered on Clark and a tiny handful of top-tier names. The same goes for media appearances, brand deals, and league marketing. The WNBA is treating Clark like she's the whole show. And that's a problem. Not because she doesn't deserve attention, but because she's not the only reason the league is. Players like Aya Wilson, Jewel Lloyd, and Alyssa Thomas have carried this league through its toughest years. They've won MVPs, championships, Olympic medals. But where were the national brand campaigns? The multi-million-dollar licensing pushes? The viral media coverage? They showed up when Caitlin Clark showed up. And now the league wants credit for progress without acknowledging the very clear disparities in how it distributes opportunity. And that's what people mean when they call this structural racism. It's not about accusing individual people of personal bias. It's about recognizing how a league that's been black-led for decades only began treating players like true stars when a white player became the face of the league. No one is asking the WNBA to take anything away from Clark. What they're asking is simple. Where was this energy before? Why did it take this long for the infrastructure to catch up? Why did it take a specific image, one that looks more palatable to certain brands and sponsors, for the league to suddenly find its marketing muscle? The silence from the top only makes it worse. WNBA executives haven't acknowledged these disparities. They haven't explained how new deals will be distributed. They haven't clarified how revenue will be shared under the Panini agreement. Instead, they're pushing forward like this is business as usual. But it's not. This moment is different. This moment is louder. This moment is exposing the cracks that were papered over for too long. And now, with the collective bargaining agreement hanging by a thread, those cracks are becoming fault lines. The 30-day extension bought both sides time, but not clarity. The players want a fair share of the league's growing revenue. They want a structure that reflects their actual value. They want transparency around licensing deals. They want to know that the boom in visibility and money isn't just going to a few names, but being used to lift everyone. What they're being met with is slow movement, vague promises, and the looming threat of a lockout. And let's be real. If the league ends up canceling or delaying the 2026 season during its most visible moment ever, it won't recover. Sponsors don't care about labor disputes. They care about consistency. Fans don't sit around waiting for clarity. They move on. And players? They'll start looking overseas, into media, into other ventures that actually value their time and talent. The WNBA has one shot to get this right. One, that means fixing more than just the CBA. It means rebuilding trust. It means reevaluating how teams are built. Not just around one star, but around systems that support chemistry, strategy, and growth. The Natasha Howard situation isn't just about fit. It's about the message it sent, that when push comes to shove, the league will choose branding over balance. And players saw that, loud and clear. It also means owning the racial dynamics at play. You can't claim to be a progressive, equity-driven league while consistently rewarding one type of player while sidelining others who've done the work for years. That contradiction is costing the league its moral high ground, and fast. And let's talk about the fan base. Fans aren't dumb. They see what's happening. They saw the pushback when black players took political stances in previous seasons. They saw how quickly certain media outlets jumped to defend Clark while ignoring or downplaying the accomplishments of players like Wilson and Stewart. They're noticing the subtle difference in coverage, in tone, in support. And two, the WNBA can't afford to alienate the community that stuck with it through years of underfunding, weak media attention, and second-tier treatment. Because while new fans might tune in for Clark, longtime fans built this league. They bought the tickets. They followed the stats. They invested emotionally when no one else did. Losing them? That's not just a bad PR move. That's existential. So where does the league go from here? It starts with honesty. Acknowledge the imbalance. Don't dodge it. Address how licensing deals will be expanded. Explain how revenue sharing will evolve. Show the players and the fans that this isn't just about riding the wave of Clark's popularity, but about building a sustainable league where every player is valued. Then fix the CBA. Stop dragging out negotiations. Meet the union halfway. Recognize that the money being made today didn't materialize in a vacuum. It came from years of work, on the court, in the media, in locker rooms, and beyond. And finally, stop pretending this is just a small bump. It's not. This is a turning point. Either the WNBA becomes a real, equitable business, or it becomes another cautionary tale about wasted momentum and mismanaged growth. Clark's talent is undeniable. Her presence is a gift to the league. But if the WNBA doesn't build around that moment with fairness and clarity, her arrival won't mark a new era. It'll mark the moment the league fell apart under the weight of its own contradictions. The WNBA is at the edge of a decision that could define its legacy or end it. For years, players have asked for fairness, not just in salary, not just in marketing, but in how the league sees them, values them, builds around them. And with Caitlin Clark's arrival, it finally looked like those conversations were being heard. Media deals, licensing contracts, corporate sponsors finally showing up with real money. But now the cracks are fully exposed. Because this surge in attention isn't lifting everyone. It's spotlighting a select few. And the players who've built the foundation, they're being asked to step aside, or worse, stay quiet, while the league reshapes itself around a narrative that feels as familiar as it is frustrating. You can't talk about this moment without addressing the growing sense of racial inequity. Not as a side note. As the note, Caitlin Clark deserves the spotlight. She earned her way in with skill, poise, and historic numbers. But the league didn't suddenly become profitable or popular overnight because one rookie showed up. This didn't begin with Clark. It began with players who have fought for visibility, respect, and basic resources through decades of being ignored. What changed is who the spotlight now favors. That's what people are reacting to. Clark is signing brand deals, getting national media coverage, and being positioned as the savior of a league that's been alive and thriving in ways the mainstream never cared to notice until now. The problem isn't that she's getting these opportunities. It's that they weren't there for everyone else, and still aren't. Let's look at what the players are seeing. A licensing deal with Panini was announced, finally giving players a cut of merchandise sales. But details on how that money gets split? Still unclear. The public was told it's a win for all players, but inside locker rooms, there's real doubt that the earnings will be distributed fairly. And right now, it looks like the profits will overwhelmingly favor the league's most marketable face. Then there's the contract structure. Despite reports of a potential $1.1 million maximum salary, the reality is that base pay sits around $800,000 with incentives. Most players won't touch that number. Meanwhile, stars are pushing for a revenue-sharing model, like the NBA, where players receive a percentage of the league's overall income. The league's response? So far, silence. Delays. Deflection. That silence is dangerous. Because while executives sit in meetings negotiating numbers, players are the ones living the consequences. They're watching rookies leapfrog past them, not just in branding, but in influence. They're being told to trust a system that's shown, time and time again, that it doesn't move until a new name forces it to. And that brings us back to the core question. Why now? Why did the marketing machine activate now? Why is revenue sharing being discussed now? Why are brand partnerships, TV coverage, and merchandise deals flooding the league now? The answer isn't just Clark's talent. It's her image, her marketability, and yes, her whiteness. This is what systemic inequality looks like. Not overt discrimination, but a pattern that says, the system only expands when a certain type of player enters it. That's the disconnect. This league, at its core, has always been about more than basketball. It's been about visibility, representation, Black excellence, queer visibility, Women pushing against a system that told them they were worth less. And now, when the checks finally start getting written, it feels like the people who fought the longest are getting the least. Even the on-court dynamics are shifting. Natasha Howard's departure from the Indiana Fever was about fit, according to team reports. But fans celebrated it loudly, claiming she was getting in the way of Clark's development. The message was clear: this isn't just about performance anymore. It's about perception. If you don't fit the narrative, you're expendable. Howard is a seasoned vet, a WNBA champion, a proven contributor. But in the eyes of many fans, her presence disrupted the Clark-centric story. And that's where things get dangerous. Because it's no longer about building the best team. It's about building around the brand. That brand is now Caitlin Clark. And here's the cruel irony. Even Clark is caught in the middle of this. She didn't ask for the league to reorganize itself around her. She didn't demand anyone get pushed out. But the system is setting her up in a way that isolates her from the very women who should be her peers. Her teammates. Her support system. Too, it's not fair to her either. Because as the league continues to overcorrect, pouring its attention into one player, it's also placing an impossible burden on her. She can't carry the league alone. No one can. And if the system collapses under the weight of its own hype, she'll be the one blamed for it, even though she didn't create the imbalance. The league did. Meanwhile, the collective bargaining agreement is hanging by a thread. Players want equity, not slogans, not performative praise. Equity. They want their share of the money. The money they helped generate through years of work that wasn't always seen, celebrated, or compensated. If the league doesn't meet them there, the risk isn't just a lockout. It's the loss of everything they've built. A canceled season wouldn't just delay progress, it would undo it. Sponsorships would vanish. Media interest would cool. Fans, especially new ones, would move on. And the players who stuck around during the lean years would be left cleaning up the mess. Again, the WNBA doesn't have time to wait this out. It can't afford another misstep. It can't survive by dividing its players into categories of valuable and replaceable based on marketability. It needs to fix the system, not just for this season, but for the future. That means full transparency on licensing revenue, clear redistribution models, fair contracts, and leadership that understands this isn't just a business negotiation, it's a moral one. Because what's at stake isn't just a paycheck. It's what kind of league this is going to be, who it belongs to, who it uplifts, and who it leaves behind. 2. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Should the WNBA be doing more to ensure equity across the board? Is the league's handling of Clark's rise a sign of progress, or a return to old patterns? Like this video if you believe the league owes more to its players than just visibility, and subscribe to stay up to date as this unfolds. Because this isn't just about basketball anymore. It's about respect, and the league is running out of time to get it right.